Welcome into the Stack Shack Sports Show. It was a wild week in Valorant. Some huge upsets, some dominant performances, and we're going to talk about all of them. And I'm also going to take a swing at actually ranking these teams. It is going to be very hard to do so, but we're going to give it a shot. We're going to give it an old college try, see if we can make some sense of what has happened over this past weekend. Let's just start going through the games, how it worked out. A lot of games this week, right? It started on Saturday with Sentinels, MIBR, Cloud9, and Loud. I thought this was, at this stage, I was very, very interested in how would the Cloud9 Loud matchup go. Pretty confident Sentinels was going to beat MIBR. They did. And then Cloud9 Loud. I thought this was a good scene, a good matchup to see, was Cloud9 legit? We talked a lot last week and the week before after we had seen Cloud9 beat EG. Go back again a week and they beat Leviathan. And then we saw Leviathan really dominating some matchups, right? They knock off Sen. What is this? Is this mean Cloud9 is one of the best, if not the best team in NA? They had, made some slight roster adjustments and were playing at a high level. So we were very curious. We came in on Saturday and we said, well, Loud will be a bit of a challenge. I had complained last week and said, hey, I don't trust Cloud9 against the legit teams. I felt like maybe they got a little bit lucky against Leviathan. Yes, okay, they beat EG, but we all, I think, kind of agree that EG is not very good. They still lost a map to EG. Then they just set up Oxy and said, hey, Oxy Cook, you'll carry us through against EG because you're just better than them. And he did. So then it was, could they do that against Loud? Come into this game against Loud, win 2-1. If you look at the all maps, KDs looked pretty good. Quick is really struggling for Loud, and that, I think, is where a lot of their struggles are right now. It's unfortunate for him. But, you lose your first map pick. First map, that's kind of like how they did against EG. But then they 13-4'd Loud on Icebox, and then 13-9'd them on Lotus. I mean, that's a pretty dominant performance right there on Icebox, especially with Loud, that being their map pick. So I was impressed with Cloud9. I said, well, okay, then they seem to be pretty legit. Crew continues to beat up on the weakest teams in the entire league. And then Leviathan put on a masterclass. This was my most hyped, most interested match of the week, was NRG Leviathan. Man, the Demon won Ospas showdown, and 152.44 plus 19 minus 17. Ospas diffed him. Now, it's not just him. Lev is coming together in a way that is terrifying. These maps were not close. This is a 10-2 half. Bind, 13-4. 13-4, 13-4. These are not close. NRG's lucky that neither of these are worse. Really, this one, that's an 11-0 first half. There was a chance here that this was going to be a 13-0. They win the final round of the half, win pistol, win bonus, lose, back and forth a little bit. They get to 13-4. It was not close. Lev dominated. And we said last week, if Calm plays well, Lev's going to win. If they can get more help, if it's just not Ospas. Look at King, +8. Calm, even. Something that did not happen when they played Cloud9. Obviously, we didn't go to map 3. But you look overall, Everybody's over a 1.0. That's crazy. Ospas, again, up plus 19. But King, again, it's can Ospas get some help? Does somebody else slay out? And this time, everybody did, pretty much, right? Absolutely decimated NRG, which was surprising because NRG had some good wins. They 2-0'd Loud to open it up. They are probably what everybody would say is the best team on paper. I think Lev is making an argument that they are better. That South America is here and is really strong. And yes, there's an NA super team in NRG, but Lev is kind of maybe a South American super team. So a dominant 2-0. Then we move to Monday. And this is where things get a little spicy. 100 Thieves, who again, last week we were talking, I don't know where to put people in the midfield, right? We were kind of feeling that maybe NRG and Lev, maybe a Cloud9, that was maybe the kind of the top three. And then where's the rest of the midfield? Well, with how badly NRG just lost to Lev, I start to go, well, maybe NRG's in the midfield. So then maybe it's Lev and Cloud9. But then 100 Thieves puts on a masterclass and destroys Cloud9. This is the same situation. Boostio -1, unfortunate. I guess it's the no mouse round. 100 Thieves won a round when Boostio didn't have a working mouse. Plus 10s for everybody but Boosty. Look at these score lines. 13-7. 13-6. 100 Thieves with an 11-1 half. Again, Bind is a little closer, but I'll be honest, I watched these games, and it never felt like Cloud9 had much of a chance. And the KDs show it. Nobody over a 1.0. Everybody but one guy over a 1.0. Asuna silently having 27 assists. That is insanity. 27 assists. Cryo popped off. This is the Cryo that most people know and love and were hoping back years ago when he signed with 100 Thieves. EU, fantastic play. EU, I think, might be one of the more underrated players in all of NA Valorant. I really do believe that. He's someone that I don't think gets talked about enough with the top players. And he doesn't even get talked about on his own team. Everybody talks about everybody else because he's the new kid on the block, so to speak. I don't think people are talking enough about him. Now, what the heck happened to Cloud9? Again, going into this match, I'm like, well, Cloud9, they beat Lev, and then Lev has gone on this tear. And Cloud9 hasn't dropped any other matches. They've dropped a map here or there. I don't know if I really trust them. And then, holy smokes, did they get rolled. So, Cloud9, NRG, similar stories in back-to-back days. Where I felt, okay, I think it's Lev at the top. You know, Sentinels is in there somewhere. Where do they fit? Probably Lev and Sen. And then it's like NRG, Cloud9, and then maybe it's kind of the rest of the mid pack of 100 Thieves and G2 maybe, and MIBR or Furia. Where do those people fit in? How does Crew fit into all of this? All of that kind of stuff, right? But I felt, oh yeah, I think Cloud9, Lev, Sen, they seem to be a little bit above people, maybe an NRG, those four teams. Not after this weekend. Lev destroyed NRG, which makes me, I don't know whether that is NRG just maybe not as good as we thought, or is Lev really that terrifying? They might be that good. And then where does Sen fit in all of this? Well, Tuesday, we had the biggest upset of the entire weekend. EG beat Sentinels. Did you hear that? EG beat Sentinels. If you look at the standings, EG hadn't won a match. They were 0-3. And they knocked off the reigning global champions. And let's be honest, EG didn't even look good in those 3 losses. It wasn't like they lost to a bunch of super good teams. They're losing to G2, right? They're only getting 1 map and then getting rolled by Cloud9. It's not like these were close matches. And they walk in and they beat Sen. And if you look at these score lines, obviously EG's score lines look better. But if you go map to map, these are not like huge blowouts. Sen 9-3s, map 1. Then on Bind, they fell apart. What happened? That's a 10-2 half that you're up. And you get rolled. 13-11. Then you go to Sunset. Back and forth. It's not like... I mean, did everybody play? Yeah, everybody on Sen was there. You can't even give the like, John QT had a little situation with flights. Maybe wasn't going to play against 100 Thieves, and then he did. So, they were maybe a little unpracticed. Well, they looked good against 100 Thieves. Then they roll in here. They've had plenty of time to practice. I don't know what's going on. Was somebody sick? Was somebody... I don't know what happened. What happened, Sentinels? Zekin's a +3 on race. That's not terrible. 7-2, first kills, first deaths. And you're losing. I wonder if potentially there is something to be said about Sentinels getting a little anti-stratted at this point. But we'll talk about that a little more when I get into the actual rankings. Let's wrap up the last 2 matches. NRG rolls MIBR. That's to be expected. Lev G2, to me, that wasn't a huge situation, but I was curious. It's just more confirmation that I think Lev is really good. They come in, they win. Leaf played better, but G2, I still think, made a significant mistake in allowing Leaf to force them into this switching up of the team. The whole thing with G2, in my mind, was about consistency in the roster. Leaf says, I don't want to play duelist. They swap people around, bring in Icy to be a duelist. I don't think that was the right decision. I think it's going to come back to bite them. Ospas, 63-34, +29 scoreline in this match. Insanity. Insanity. The dude is the best player in Valorant. Period. That's it. Period. He is the greatest Valorant player of all time as well. I know I've been saying that. Consistency year over year. 13-6, 13-8, 13-9. It's okay. You're allowed to lose to a team on their pick. Wasn't a pretty match, right? But you're allowed to lose. G2 is still a decent team. Just win your map pick big and win the decider. And to wrap up the week, thankfully, Crew beat Loud 2-0, because that's going to at least give me some chance of ranking these teams. We got 1st through 11th. How am I ranking these teams? It is incredibly difficult to rank these teams. Sentinels losing to EG just, like, is destroying this. We got crazy dominations by Lev. Cloud9 loses to 100 Thieves pretty handedly. It's all over the place. So where do we put these teams? Well, I actually think the top and bottom is the easy part. I think Lev is the best team in Americas. Yes, come at me for the loss to Cloud9. I don't care. I think it was a fluke. I think it might be exactly what Lev needed to come together, lock in, and show everybody what they're capable of. So I'm going to put Lev at number 1. I don't think there's going to be too much pushback, maybe a few random, I don't know. if you're Cloud9, do you really think you can jump above Lev right now? I don't think so. You just lost 100 Thieves. If you're Sen, you don't have an argument over Lev right now, I don't think either. NRG, you just played Lev. So I really don't think there's an argument to be made of any team besides Lev being number one. Then we have the bottom. I think MIBR is better than Furia, but we really have three teams down here, in my mind. EG, MIBR, Furia. Now, EG fans, I really don't know what to do with you after you beat Sen, because I thought Sen was probably the second best team in Valorant. And then you beat them. They were close maps, but it wasn't particularly like a fluke. It didn't feel fluky. Those score lines were not fluky. So I don't know what to do with you, EG, but I'm going to put you in ninth and say, you know, I think Sen was on an off day. You anti-stratted them, and this is what I kind of alluded to. I think there is a real argument to be made that because there are so many videos on Sen playing matches, right? They played the kickoff, obviously, as did everybody else, but then they also went to the international play and played a bunch of maps over there. So there's some game plan footage, so to speak, out there. And EG, I think with Potter and, you know, a team of fairly experienced players, maybe not what we would consider stars. I don't really feel like EG has that star player yet. But they do have decent fundamentals, and they have Potter as their coach. In a situation where they're playing Sen and are able to prep really well, because Sen has probably the most footage out there to be able to go off of how they like to play maps and rounds, I think there was an opportunity for some anti-stratting, and I think Sentinels is struggling with that a little bit. They need to adapt. They need to continue innovating. We'll see. I felt like there's no reason Sen should have lost that, but EG got him. And I don't know what to do with Sen now. But I'm going to say it was a little bit of a fluke, a little bit of just getting lucky with the right maps, at the right times, anti-stratting correctly. That's where I have to go with this. I don't believe that EG is all of a sudden, you know, one of the top teams in Valorant in Americas. I just can't believe that yet. So the bottom, I think, is pretty set. There might be some EG fans that are mad that I'm not ranking them higher after they just knocked off Sen, right? Head to head, how could you put Sen higher? They just lost to EG. I got to look at the body of work, and we're given power rankings right now. We're trying. Now, unfortunately, if we look at the standings, Sen is in trouble. They might not get out of this group stage in the regular season. EG might. We might have a situation where the former global champions don't make it to playoffs. That's crazy. With a plus 20 round differential. EG has a negative 35 round differential, and if they get one more win, there's a chance they go. Now, you do have to win 2 in your groups. Otherwise, they'll start pulling from the other group, if the other group is that dominant. And in this case, everybody over here has 2 wins. Only 2 teams have 2 wins over here. But we got more matches to play. If EG pulls off another win, could get spicy. So I think EG's down there. Then I think we have another pack of teams. Again, the EG Sentinels conversation just ruins everyone's power rankings, I feel like. I really don't know what to do with this. But I think we have another group of teams. And that is the G2s of the world, the Louds of the world, and frankly, probably the NRGs, maybe the 100 Thieves. I don't know. I'm going to say these 3 teams are in this next pack. NRG still, on paper, I think, could be the most dominant of them. If I was ranking them, I think I'd probably rank it something like this. NRG has potential. We've seen it. They looked really good until they walked into the buzzsaw that is Lev. And I think that's the big question that we still need to have answered. Is it that Lev is just this much better than everybody else right now, now that they're playing fully together as a team? Post Cloud9, did Lev just reach a different gear than everybody else? That's the question I think we need to answer. Because I could see an NRG up here. This is really kind of the group that I want to put him in. But they got beat so badly by Lev. And Cloud9 beat Lev. So how do I deal with this? I think G2 and Loud are down here. Now, Crew is the other big question. Right? How high do we put Crew up? They're undefeated. They've only dropped one map. But they've only played Loud, EG, MIBR, and Furia. You know, the bottom 4 teams. So I don't know what to do with Crew either. I do think they deserve some credit for going undefeated right now. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set NRG at 5. I'm going to set Crew at 3. I don't know. I don't necessarily trust Crew at 3. I'm not feeling super strongly about this position. But they're undefeated. Sentinels couldn't beat EG, right? Like, nobody else is able to stay undefeated. Other people are losing. Everybody else got a loss. Crew's undefeated. I think that deserves some credit. That's legit. To some extent. Now, we're about to find out some things in 4 days. Crew, 100 Thieves. This is going to be a very solid matchup in my mind to decide this top 3. Because here's what I'm going to do. Everyone's probably freaking out right now about the 6th for Cloud9. But I told you last week, if Cloud9 plays a team that plays solid fundamentals, that plays to anti-Oxy, they're going to get exposed. This is why last week I was putting them up here. I was saying, you know, you have to give them credit, but I don't trust them. And I think that's something that all 5 of those teams can do. If you look at Cloud9's wins, yes, they beat Lev. But in my mind, this was week 1. Lev had some internal drama, locked it in, and have been on a tear since. Cloud9 should not have beaten Lev in this. Then they beat EG, but they lost a map. Then they beat Loud, but they lost a map. Loud just doesn't have the firepower. Quick is just really struggling right now. Really struggling. Cloud9 then played 100 Thieves, which is not the team I was necessarily thinking would be so concerning for them. But 100 Thieves has a legit IGL. It has cryo. It has shooters. And 100 Thieves actually played good fundamentals in that matchup, and Cloud9 got exposed. I think NRG, Sentinels, Crew, 100 Thieves, obviously, and then Leviathan. If they played again, I think all of these teams have what Cloud9 cannot compete with. And that is people that shoot back. Oxy is just probably flat out better than every single player on all of these teams that are below them. And that, in my mind, is why I put them 6th. I think they have a ceiling. I don't trust them against any of the best teams. So I'm dropping them to 6th. I know that might seem harsh after one loss. And let's be honest, they're probably going to win their next 2. Especially when they got the win against Lev. But again, I'm writing that off as a week 1 situation where Lev wasn't maybe prepared the way they needed to be. And they got surprised. Again, it wasn't like this was a blowout. Icebox 13-7. Then they snapped it right back 13-7. And then it was a billion overtimes. Right? Like this is a week 1 situation where it's just a close game. And Calm had probably his worst game of the season against them. 32-51, minus 19. He hasn't been doing that since. So I'm putting Cloud9 6th. Now, I had Crew 3rd, and I left 2nd open, and I put 100 Thieves there. Okay. That probably is going to make some people a little more happy if I do that. But I don't know what to do with Crew. I can't put them 2nd when the only teams they've played are the bottom 4. And that's why I said this week's game between Crew and 100 Thieves is going to be the telltale sign. This very easily, if Crew beats 100 Thieves handedly, this becomes a Crew 1, maybe 100 Thieves drops to 4. Or maybe even 5. But NRG is not looking good right now, and neither is Sentinels. Sentinels just lost to EG. That's a legitimate loss. Again, if I'm writing off the week 1 with Lev, I feel like it is appropriate to allow myself some level of writing off the 100 Thieves loss to Sentinels at the beginning of the year. Again, 100 Thieves, if you look at their overall record this year, they played Lev, then they played Sentinels, then they played Sentinels, then they have won ever since. It was a bit of a rough start, sure, but this was a team that we were saying was going to need some time. Lev needed a little time. NRG apparently still needs time. I'm not sure what's going on there. If NRG looked good against Lev, I would have no problem putting them 2nd. But they looked terrible. They did. They looked terrible. So this is the final bracket there. Lev 1, 100 Thieves 2, Crew 3. Again, Crew's undefeated, so I would absolutely understand that argument. I haven't seen them play anybody good. 100 Thieves I've at least seen play some people good. Cloud9 I thought was decent. Crew hasn't played anybody but the bottom 4, and we think these bottom 3 are really bad. I mean, we're talking about MIBR hasn't won a map. Cloud9 has multiple wins. EG now has 1 win over Sen. So I guess that looks better for Crew. But in reality, I think this is a fair rankings today. Again, this weekend, Probably going to change again, because last week this would have looked totally different. But today, this is what it looks like to me. That's what it looks like. Apparently I can't trust NRG. I know that Cloud9, they're exactly what I said they were last week. If they run into one of the better teams, they're going to get rolled. Because Oxy can't just diff everybody. And what did 100 Thieves do? They kind of just said, Cryo, kill Oxy. And he did. Game over. Wasn't particularly close. So that's my thoughts. That's my tier list. That's my rankings. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. And we'll see you tomorrow.